Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. On this episode, we're talking about the celebration of Beltane. This is a very old fire festival rooted in ancient Celtic tradition and is traditionally celebrated on May 1st. In our old community, for this festival, we would choose a May Queen and a May King. And on this episode, Chelle and I are naming all of you, if you choose to accept it, the May Queen and or May King of this Beltane. I'm Layla, and let me be the first one to say, all hail the queens and kings of the May.
And I'm Queen Chelle because, well, we're all queens and kings today.
Because we said so.
Because we said so. So I'm Queen Chelle, and this is my favorite holiday, and I'm so excited to talk about it. And it's not my favorite for all the reasons you might think.
This is a lot of people's favorite holiday. It's the beginning of summer traditionally. It's celebrated with fire and with dancing and with life and with love and with all sorts of the things that we absolutely adore.
And what is the thing that we would do for the first time every year at Beltane?
Well, I'm going to stop the inner 9-year-old boy from saying what
Don't say that because that wasn't the answer.
But it's camping!
Camping!
Yay!
I'm so glad you guessed right.
It's traditional start to the camping season.
At least if you're in the Northeast, this is like first camping weekend opportunity. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're not going to wake up to snow outside your tent, but
I was going to say the same thing. It's the first camping opportunity, and you better bring 3 sleeping bags and 12 blankets because you might wake up with snow on your tent, but we still did it anyway.
Okay, quick side note. Remember that time when we went to Beltane and camped and we woke up to like 4 inches of snow and I begged you to go take me for hot chocolate? Do you remember?
I do. We piled into the car in the wee hours of the morning and went out and got hot chocolate and coffee.
I need warm stuff. It's May and snowing.
Yeah. I think we came back and a whole bunch of other people were also walking back to the camping field with steaming cups of coffee and warm croissants. And it was definitely a chilly morning, but great community.
So speaking of our community, let's talk real quick because I know we're both excited about this. Our old community in upstate New York kind of, I don't want to say dormant, but they went a little
quiet,
incognito for a while. Quiet. People had stuff, people had life, things were going on. They're bringing Beltane back. Man.
They are. I was listening to a couple of our old Beltane episodes, and a couple years ago, I was very excited because we had just moved back to the East Coast, and our old community did a Beltane celebration, and I went, and it was so lovely to reconnect with some old friends, meet new friends, and then sadly, last year, they didn't do it. But this year, it has been announced by one of our favorite bards of the community that Beltane 2025 will be happening.
Well, and if Billy Bardo puts it out there, then it's going to be a rockin' good time.
Yeah, you do. And I'm glad that we're doing it because that is the land where I met my husband 26 years ago.
Oh my God, was it that long?
It was. And it was all your fault.
Blame me. I'll take that one.
I absolutely blame you. We're then handfasted a year later in the year 2000 when our coven did Beltane. So this year, when we go out there, will be the 26th.
Oh my God, it's 25 years.
25-year anniversary of us being handfasted. So I'm super stoked about that. I'm very, very excited for us.
I totally spaced that 25-year thing until just now when you said Beltane 2000. And right? I was like, no shit.
The land is wonderful. The people are wonderful. And I'm just very excited that even though the community is a little slow, that it is kind of coming back.
Now, here's an even funner fact. For any of our listeners that are a part of that group and in the southern tier of New York, Layla and I are going to Beltane.
Woohoo! Are they going to be excited or are they going to be worried? That's the question here. For those of our listeners that are part of that community, yes, we're coming. This is your fair warning, I guess.
We're coming in with a vengeance. No, I'm just kidding. I think they're going to be frightened and scared and joyful all at the same time.
Although we did tend to push the envelope a lot, I don't think we ever did more than cause a few ruffled feathers with the old guard.
I wouldn't push an envelope anywhere ever. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Shell, you are mild-mannered, meek, and quiet. That's exactly how we describe you when you're not around.
We are not asking opinions on that. We're just rolling with the statement.
That's right. We're just going with it. So, yeah, Beltane is coming up May 1st. Our community is having a celebration, and Shell and I will be there with bells on, very joyous and very excited.
But let's talk about Beltane as far as, we talk about community a lot, our community, our old community, and we talk about all these wonderful group things that we do and have done. What about for our listeners that don't have that? Why don't we take a moment? Let's dedicate this episode to our solitary friends.
Absolutely. The kings and queens of the May that are all of our listeners this year. All of you, whether you're celebrating with a coven, a group, friends, family, or just by yourself, this is things that you can do at home to celebrate yourself as royalty of the May, as well as celebrate the season, the god and the goddess. So there's a spell that you can do to declare yourself a sovereign of May. The purpose of this spell is for you to claim your sovereignty, awaken your inner fire, and honor your path, whatever that path of becoming is. So, what you'll need is a mirror or a bowl of water, something you can see your reflection in. Your phone will work. A candle, preferably in a summer color like gold or green or red. Make a flower crown or a crown that you have, dollar store plastic crown if you have a beautiful pagan crown, whatever crown you like, but a crown that makes you feel royal. Also, an oil, an essential oil that you like the smell of, or your favorite perfume. You could even go to the store and get a little sample of a super expensive perfume. Doesn't need to be a lot. And then, of course, your journal. So dress up as regally as you like, or not at all. Get your space ready. Do this in some place like your bedroom or near your altar where you feel good, maybe where you do your makeup or get ready for the day. Then light a candle. Put the bowl of water or the mirror near the candle and set up some flowers, soft fabrics, maybe put some music on in the background, whatever makes you feel powerful, sensual, happy. So as you're in your space and the music's playing and the flowers are pretty and everything looks good, take your oil and anoint yourself. Put it on your pulse points like you normally would with perfume, but think of it as literally anointing yourself. Put it on your wrists, your neck, your chest, your belly, behind your ears, on your ankles, anywhere on your body that you would like to bless. And say, with scent and spirit, I awaken my fire. I stand in my skin, sacred and whole. The crown of the May rests on my soul. Place the crown on your head and look at yourself in the water or in the mirror. Don't judge yourself. Honor yourself. See yourself with reverence. See yourself as life, as the earth, as the universe sees you. Beautiful, wild, alive. You are a spark of life, a spark of the universe. See yourself that way. Feel yourself that way. And say, I am the May Queen. I am the sacred sovereign of my life, of my own becoming. Repeat that in any way and as many times as it feels right. Let the words just come. Just say whatever comes to your mouth, but make it all reverent and honoring and in honor of you. Then place one hand on your heart and one on your center, on your belly, and say, I claim my power, my joy, my voice. I name myself sovereign by my own choice. With fire in my spirit and earth beneath my feet, I grow by my will and do not retreat. Then, on your journal or on a piece of paper, write your goal. What are you sovereign of? What are you stepping into? What are you growing into this season? Make sure you say it in present tense as if you already have it. I grow in confidence. I have sacred love. My life is filled with joy and wildness and magic. I am free to be who I am and who I am becoming. Whatever you feel, whatever you need, write that down. Fold the paper, and then with a fire-safe dish, light the paper with the candle and either put it in the fire safe dish or put it in the bowl of water that you have and let that energy go out to the universe. And then thank the energies, and you can either keep the crown on to be your royal self, or you can place it on the altar to remind you that you are royalty, that you are sovereign of your own life.
I love that. Now, I am bursting to just chat about this real quick. So we're gonna walk into this conversation. Not everybody has the ability, the means, the space, the openness to be able to just have a ritual or a celebration privately in their yard, their family home, whatever. Let's talk briefly about how you recently were doing some May Day celebrations. You spent the afternoon, you lucky dog. You actually spent the afternoon with my grandson.
I did.
I wasn't able to babysit for a day, so you did. The things you did with my grandson were such May Day things, and not only am I jealous, but it was a way to kind of celebrate that spring, that new life outdoors, the freshness that is in the Beltane season. Talk to me a little bit about your little Beltane Day fun with my little man.
Okay. Well, I'm an idiot. And when you mentioned that your daughter was moving, I was like, oh, let her know if she needs any help. I don't know why I said that because she then asked for help.
She's like, "Hey, can you help?" I'm like, "I can't, but Layla can."
Layla said she would, and I did. She offered me the best job, which was babysitting. I didn't even have to move shit. I got to play with the baby all day. So I get out there, and this lovely house is your old haunted house.
It really is. Oh my God, we need a different episode. We need to talk about if you felt anything in my old house.
Oh, I
Different.
did. I'm just going to say real quick that Clara made an appearance because when
Okay.
I got there, there was someone in the window. I thought your daughter was there, and the house was
Yes.
empty.
See, I told
So,
you.
yeah, she showed up. We'll talk about that in a different episode. When your daughter and the baby showed up, now he's almost 3, which is the perfect age, let me just say.
Which, by the way, he turns 3 on Beltane weekend. Just
I
saying.
know, isn't that adorable? This is your old house, and it has a cute little backyard and a cute little front yard that was just bursting with flowers, daffodils. I mean, I know that's kind of a spring thing, but it's also more of a late spring, early summer thing with
Where
all
we're
these
at, late
where we're
spring.
at. Yeah, that's right, because it can still freaking snow. But the grass was green and the forsythias blooming in the backyard. So I got to take your grandbaby out in the muddy backyard where it had just rained, April showers. And he loved picking the flowers. He would pick the little purple dead nettles and the violets and these little white flowers that I don't know what they were out of the grass. And we'd say what color they were, and he'd pick a couple. And then what he really wanted to do was go over to the little forsythia bush and decorate it with these flowers.
That's my little man.
It's bright yellow, full bloom of these gorgeous bright yellow flowers, which he loved, but he wanted to decorate it with these little white and purple flowers. So he'd pick the little flowers and he'd go over and he'd, tell me how pretty it was and how beautiful, and he really liked decorating it. Then we got to play in the mud because spring is mud luscious and May is very, very full of rain and mud. So we got to play in the mud and enjoy all of that. So being outside, touching the dirt, touching the new flowers, we wove little flower
Feeling
crowns,
the land.
waking it up because that house has been empty for a minute. And I could tell that the land was happy and excited that there was a family there again, a family that it knew. And so that's one thing that you can do in Beltane is say hello to your land again as it's waking up. Say hello to those land spirits. And I loved getting to do that at your old house with your new grandbaby. It was fun.
Without me. That's some
Without you. Yeah, you
bullshit.
weren't there.
That's some bullshit.
I did send you lots of pictures though,
You
so
did, you did. And I actually ended up posting on Facebook the picture of him with behind the yellow flowers because it was so cute.
he's just the sweetest.
My point, it wasn't just so we could spend a few minutes talking about my sweet baby, but the point of me bringing this up was even if you can't go out in the yard and cast a circle because the neighbors might put you to the stake or something, there's things you can do as a solitaire or with your children or with your family or what have you that doesn't necessarily have to be casting a circle, calling quarters, all of
Right.
that. It can still be ritualistic, but you're decorating trees and plants and digging in the
Yeah.
mud and stacking stones.
And weaving flower crowns and declaring your little grandbaby a little prince of the May.
He
He
is.
is. And now, what does being king or queen of the May mean? Because we've declared all of our listeners our royalty. But in our old
Tell us
community,
what that means, Layla.
because I was a queen of the May in our
I
old
was just
community,
gonna point out that after like 20 years, I still never was the damn May Queen.
maybe this year, maybe
You
this
never
year.
know.
You
Maybe it's
never
me.
know. Now, our community, the May King and Queen was an important tradition. And historically, a lot of times when they chose someone to represent a season or to represent a holiday, the idea is that person literally represents those energies. They are that energy battery, maybe, for the community. They bring that and provide it to everyone. So the May Queen
Throughout
traditionally
the
would
whole
have
year.
throughout the whole year would have represented that growth, fertility, that blooming, coming into season. And in our community, the queen in particular, but the May King and the May Queen held the energy of the community. They helped to carry it and they helped to let it grow. Some people theorized that when the community kind of petered out towards the end a few years ago, we had had a series of May Kings and Queens who were chosen and then were never able to come back. And what we traditionally liked to do was we would put all of this energy of the community into the May King and Queen, celebrate them for the day, give them gifts, and then throughout the year, they would hopefully come back to the community and bring that energy back. And then on the next Beltane, they would give up that title to the next person and allow that energy to be carried on.
But if they're not showing up, it's hard to bring that energy back and keep it flourishing.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that might have contributed a little bit to it. But in our community, it was done by chance. They would bake a bean or something small into a cake or cupcakes or brownies, and then those would be passed around. And if you got the bean, you were the queen of the May. So historically, there's not a lot of evidence for a May queen, but there were people that were symbols or were held as symbols of the season. So even though the May Queen is like a central figure in modern pagan and particularly Wiccan-based Beltane celebrations, there's no real direct evidence that ancient pagans crowned any type of May Queen. But her roots do trace back through folk customs. It was in a lot of older seasonal rites that were kind of similar but not the same. She was first mentioned, we're pretty sure, in the 19th century by a folklorist, particularly James Fraser. And he linked the current May Day celebrations to ancient fertility cults and fertility rites of older pagan people. And these writings influenced a lot of the early Wiccans like Gerald Gardner. So the May Queen became this idea, an expression of the season, of the goddess in her maiden form. So in modern rites, she is half of the duality joined by the green man, the horned god, and they join together in the sacred marriage that blesses the land, that brings vitality back to the earth. Now, what that means for our listeners is that they get to carry this energy of new life, of new beginnings, of creation within themselves for their own practice or for whatever purpose they choose to put it to.
Sometimes people have a lot of weight on them, and it's sometimes easier to carry just the magic of one for the time being.
There you go. Yeah. And we're celebrating Beltane in the Northern Hemisphere, and they're celebrating Samhain in the Southern Hemisphere. And these are the two big holidays of the year. And they both represent duality, life, death, new beginnings, the god, the goddess. And while Beltane is celebrating life in full bloom, basically, the seeds you've planted are really starting to come out now.
That one's kind of the opposite of that. It's when those things
Yeah,
are dying off and things are going to pasture, so to say, and
exactly.
ending and going dormant. Wow, it's hard to grasp Samhain right now, but
Right. No, I'm not saying to go there. I'm just saying that these are two sides of the same coin.
it's the
And
duality. Yeah.
yeah, it's the duality. And I love celebrating duality at Beltane, the duality of the energies of action and reception, of masculine and feminine, if you choose to call them that. But they encompass so much more than just that. And just like at Samhain, the veil is thin. Just because we call it Beltane doesn't mean that the veil is thick here in the northern hemisphere and thin down in the southern hemisphere. It's thin everywhere. So ancestor work and divination is really good this time of year.
And that's why you saw Clara at my old family home because, the veil is thin and she's got stuff to say.
There you go. Traditionally, Beltane is a fertility holiday. It's about fire, it's about passion, it's about sacred unions, it's god and goddess. And we've been working a lot with the horned god lately, particularly Cernunnos. And this is a wonderful time to celebrate the horned god.
Literally and figuratively, just saying.
Maybe because a lot of us have hang-ups from other religions, I'm not sure, but I think the god tends to get forgotten. And I love to make sure that he's remembered on Beltane.
Oh wow, Layla wants to remember the horny god on Beltane.
I
Shocker.
know. So surprised, so surprised. Cernunnos, the wild god of the wood, the green man, Pan, Hern, all of these gods, goat-footed gods, horned gods, gods who walk around with their ding dong out. These guys, I love these guys this time of year because they love being wild and free, and that energy is beautiful and it is strong and it is loving.
And you feel it across the land.
You do. And I grew up in the woods. My father is a woodsman, and faults he may have, honoring the woods and the spirit of the woods has always been a part of who he is. And so I have always felt the wild heartbeat of the god in the woods and in the land, especially this time of year. So if you get a chance, say hello to Cernunnos. Spend a little time learning about Hern or Pan or one of the green men. Learn about the wild ways of the forest and the pathwalkers.
Don't forget the god, man.
He is such a big part, the God within us. We all have these dualities. Beltane's all about duality, and you don't need a separate person to have that duality. You can find that in yourself. So set the God free that's in you. When you're celebrating the May King and the May Queen, be both of them and celebrate that God, celebrate that
Be that
energy.
wild and free spirit.
Yeah, and definitely revel in that for a little bit and allow that to be wondrous and honoring and beautiful because he is not about control or putting down. He is about running those paths and being part of nature and being part of the cycle.
And it's not about domination, it's about duality.
Absolutely. And it's about honoring the life-giving force in himself, in the world, in the goddess, in everything. He's beautiful and powerful. And I highly recommend you guys say hello. I think you'll like
Well,
it.
geez, makes me want to just jump up out of my chair and go outside and go say hello to Cernunnos.
Beltane itself, Bel is a god. He's the god of the sun, god of healing and light. And Beltane typically means the fires of Bel.
So just to interject here a little bit, I read an article recently. Now, we've talked about this before we got on to record, and I am the worst person at pronunciations. So I'm going to give this a go. So I read an article based out of Edinburgh. Is that how you say
Yes, I think I
it?
mispronounced that one a little while ago. I said in Edinburgh. And we were corrected by some listeners who are from there. So thank you very much.
The best way to teach me pronunciations is to invite me to come
There
stay
you go. Have us come over. We'll wander around and tell us how everything's pronounced.
and
That's
teach us
perfect.
pronunciations.
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome, wouldn't
That
it?
would be awesome. So anyway, I read this article that they do every year, which I love this and I find this fascinating and actually would love to attend sometime. They do a Beltane Fire Festival and they have actually what's called the Beltane Fire Society that puts this big, huge, I mean, they light balefires. It almost looks ancient to me when you watch these YouTube videos, like you're transported back in time to traditional Beltane celebrations. But the town has actually put a ticket levy on this event.
What? What is that?
It's basically a tax, and they're saying that the implications by putting on this tax levy gives the city the ability to hold a safe cultural and community-based events.
Okay.
Okay, I'm all for safe cultural and community-based events, all for it. But what they're doing, it seems, is the way they have kind of structured who has to pay this tax levy and who doesn't is kind of not in favor of the Beltane Fire Society.
I see. So it seems to be a little discriminatory.
It's kind of targeted, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because, yeah, basically what they're saying is if you have an event at this place and you're going to have things like fire and you're going to have, say, more than 100 people, you have to pay this exorbitant tax.
Aha. So it seems directly targeted to them.
But they're not saying you and you alone are taxed. So they're making it kind of exclusive instead of inclusive. And they've added this park, I guess it's called and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong as well, the Calton Hill. They've added it to the Premier Parks events. They have this thing called Premier Parks Event Levy Project,
Hmm.
which basically kind of targets certain groups to charge them a lot.
And so this group has been targeted.
Right. And they're saying
Wow.
that, obviously, as with anything else, that this is going to put a strain on the facilitation and the attendance. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're trying to drive them out, but kinda. I mean, this thing has more than 20,000 attendees. So, like, we're not talking like 200 people here. We're talking over like 20,000 attendees.
I guess I'd need to know a little more. I can understand having some safety in place and needing to have permits and that kind of thing. I totally get that. This feels very targeted. So I hope not.
It's coming across, and I mean, this was right on MSN.com. Not that they're the premier news source, but it's not like I got this out of like the local penny saver.
It looks like the fire festival itself, very cool. It's been going on since 1988, and I would absolutely love to go next year. But they do fire spinning. There's all
Ooh.
sorts of events that go on all night. They have rituals, they have fire displays. They're going to have a torchlit procession. Symbolic figures from Celtic mythology, the Green Man, the Queen of the May will be there.
I can see there being an air of caution with all that fire going around, but
Exactly.
hey, why don't you just have like the local fire department on standby if that's the case?
Yeah, I would hope that this is not religiously targeted and it's really just to keep everything safe and that they work with the local people.
So my question is we have listeners that are in Scotland and in Edinburgh, and I would like to know, A, if you go, is this a badass time or what? And B, is attendance and the event going to actually be that affected with the targeted attack on pricing? Because this is sometimes what governments do. They price you out of existence.
So my last question to that is, I think that was either C or D or four. I'm not sure. But my last question on that is, if we want to go next year, how soon should we start looking for rooms to reserve at the local hotels? Because it looks like there's a lot of people that go to this.
Unless we have a listener that's got a room we can stay at. Just saying.
There you go. Just saying.
I had to say that.
So there are celebrations around the world for this. We all like when the days are longer and warmer and you can see that life has started. We even had a hard time celebrating Ostara until just a couple weeks ago because
Right.
it's been so cold and yucky. This is wonderful. This year, I feel like I'm really blooming and really ready to be outside.
But in our region of the world, I've always looked at summer, and I know you've kind of always looked at summer is from Beltane to Samhain.
Agreed.
And so it's time to kick it up, folks.
Traditionally, in ancient Ireland, this is one of those holidays that has been celebrated for a very, very long time. And we do know what these celebrations are. There is I think it was in the 10th century, Cormac's glossary, Sanus Cormac, 10th century Irish text. He describes the festival as taking place on May 1st, and it was typically the start of summer. So, us seeing this as the summer season, May 1st to Samhain, even in cold Northeast, is historically accurate. I believe that in Ireland, in Irish, and May is Bealtaine. So some people will say, instead of saying Beltane for the holiday, they'll call it by Bealtaine, which is the word from the month of May.
That kind of sounds fancy and nice.
Doesn't it? Bealtaine. I love that. It's also the day that the fairies, the fae folk, the Tuatha De Danann, were said to come to Ireland. So honoring the fae folk is another way, a traditional way to celebrate Beltane. And that goes hand in hand with go out and walk your land, walk around your neighborhood, find a tree in your backyard and leave a little offering of milk or honey or a tiny little bit of food for the fae. Go say hello to your land spirits. I have been loving the last few weeks walking my land. Anytime I get a chance, go out and pick up some of the branches that have fallen, start cleaning the land, getting my garden beds ready, and whispering hello and waking up the land spirits. And that's a wonderful thing to do for Beltane as well.
Now you were talking about how it goes by different names. In Welsh, it's called Calan Mai. And one thing I have always associated with Beltane, and I think of when I think of Calan Mai is, do you remember when you were a kid, the little wicker baskets and you'd go pick flowers?
I have a ton sitting right here. I have a fetish for cute wicker baskets.
All I could think about the other day was just going through with my wicker basket and filling it with flowers. For what reason? I don't know. Just because they smell pretty. I'm not good at weaving flower crowns. That's really kind of your thing. But just kind of bring in that life inside to the house because this is traditionally my spring cleaning time where I kind of gut everything, clean it all out, and bringing a basket of fresh flowers in kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say rejuvenate or refresh because those aren't the words that really sound right, but something
They
along
are.
those
They're
lines,
perfect.
like, yeah, like rejuvenating my space. And I am working hard to keep these plants alive, by the way, people, and everything is going swimmingly right now.
Yay, Beltane win, I say. Beltane win. But weaving crowns or weaving wreaths to put up on your door, take down your old wreath that was for fall or winter and put up a nice spring wreath that smells good, has some greenery in it. But weaving is wonderful. And maypoles are another good example of weaving.
And that kind of brings me around to something I did want to chat about today, and that's ribbon magic. Not everybody is familiar with a maypole and the ribbons on a maypole. And the other day, I saw something on Facebook that talked about maypoles, and all I could think about was dancing around that pole and weaving the ribbons. And I thought, I don't have that right now, but I still want the concept of that. And because I didn't have that big community and that 10-foot tall maypole to dance around. I took different colored ribbons, spring colored ribbons. I had a pink and a yellow, and I think I had a white and a blue, and did like a 4 ribbon braid.
I
And
love
then
those.
I
So
took that
fancy.
braid. Yeah, I know. I took that braid and actually ended up attaching it to my broomstick. Why? I
Ooh.
don't know. It felt right, so I did it.
Hey, shout out to the hags over at Three
Hey,
Moon Brooms, Hesper and Monica. We love you, ladies. Thank you for
stop
our
giving those
brooms.
ladies shit, by the way. They're doing their best.
Be good to them. They're amazing. And all of you that love them and send them energy, send them lots of good, wonderful energy because they're fantastic creators and they're so good to other creators in the space. They're just wonderful witches. Anyway, so you put it on your broom.
I added it to my broom because it was kind of a spontaneous thing that I was doing it without really knowing why. Usually I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
let me do this for this purpose. I just did it and didn't really have a why at the end, so I just put it on my broom.
I love that. See, you were
I
just
know.
going with the energy flow, which is fantastic.
I was, but things like braiding and I don't know how you do it. Maybe you braid the flower stems, how you do the flower crown.
It's just kind of a version of French braiding. If anybody out there has a hard time braiding flower crowns, if you think of it like French braiding, where you're always adding a little bit more hair or whatever to the braid as you go along, it's basically you just add new flowers to the
As you
braid as
go.
you go along, just like a French braid, similar.
For some reason, I do a lot of like braiding magic and not magic this time of year when I don't really any other time of year. So I think of this time of year as kind of time to be weaving magic together figuratively and literally.
And we've talked before about knot magic and weaving magic. As you're doing the spell, each of those braids or knots holds the energy. So you can braid as you're humming a spell or as you're thinking about the energies. You could do each knot to be a different word of the spell or a different energy that you want to hold. And maypoles are, I'm not sure exactly when they started getting associated with Beltane, but because they have a lot of fertility associations, they've definitely been part of May Day and Beltane celebrations, not just for pagans, but Christians and other people do maypole dances as well. And now in our community and in a lot of communities, the maypole and the ribbons are fertility symbols, which again is a big, huge theme of Beltane. So the maypole obviously stands for the phallus, and the hole that the pole goes into stands for the vagina. So you have male and female aspects. I know I make it sound so unsexy.
We literally would chant, put the pole in the hole.
Oh, yeah. There was all sorts of innuendos flying back and forth. We had a lot of fun with it. I'm hoping it happens again this year. So this again is a fertility thing. You put the pole in the hole, and the ribbons can stand for all sorts of things. They can stand for the maiden blood. They could stand for semen. They can stand for just the energies of the season. And so to do a simple maypole spell, you would get ribbons in the colors that you want, colors that represent Beltane, which is typically going to be like green, gold, red, silver, things that you would see when you go outside this time of year. And also pick colors that represent what you want. Maybe you're going to put purple in there because you are the goddamn May Queen this year and you're royalty. So you want to put purple in there to represent your royalty as you hold your head up and wear your crown for the rest of the year. But in our community, everyone would get a ribbon. We typically use the same ones each year. And the May Queen would get a white one, the only white one, because we would all try to dance and weave the ribbons beautifully.
Never worked.
No, it never worked. And the May Queen was chaos, and she would weave in and out however she wanted to, while the rest of us tried to do the pattern perfectly. And we would do a little bit of maypole divination at the end, where we would see how chaotic or how the pattern wove and kind of predict how the year would go based on the maypole weaving, tongue in cheek mostly. You could do that yourself if you had a group, or if you wanted to do a little knitting or crocheting or weaving yourself as you spoke your spell and just kind of look at it afterwards and see how it turns out. It might give you an idea.
I've always liked the weaving intentions into the coming season because I kind of have that theme on every Sabbath, every holiday is kind of setting the intentions for the next segment, the next notch that we're working with. So what are my intentions that I'm going to set from now, from Beltane until we hit Litha, the summer solstice? What are my goals and what am I looking to accomplish basically between the beginning of May and the end of June? So I like that weaving my intentions for this next phase of the wheel because sometimes my brain just can't chunk it out a year at a time. Sometimes I just need to go every 6 weeks, what am
Yeah.
I doing for the next 6 weeks or the next 8 weeks?
Hmm.
I can't sometimes fathom setting those intentions for 8 months from now because I don't have the headspace for that. I can
Yeah.
only kind of segment it out for the here and now. And I think that maybe a lot of people are feeling that way recently that I can only think about the next 6 weeks, damn it. I can't think
Right.
about the next 6 months.
Yeah. I have a little spell that will kind of combine that idea into a short-term spell from now until Litha.
Do tell.
You're going to do a braid. So, however many strands you would like, 3, 4, 7, whatever kind of braiding or knotwork you would like to do. But make sure that it is natural fibers or paper or long strands of grass. You can use whatever you want. Just make sure that it's natural because you're going to put this outside. This is going to be an offering to yourself from now until Litha and also to the land spirits. So, one of the things people used to do for Beltane is to tie ribbons. Usually, there would be a special tree, often near water or in a place where they feel that the land spirits were particularly potent. There'd be like a fairy tree. And that would be where people would go to tie ribbons and ask for an offering. They might leave a little bit of food or honey or milk for the land spirits, for the fae, and then they would tie their ribbon and ask for something in return. So in this version of the spell, you're going to take your 3 ribbons. You can take like that really thin paper, anything you'd like, again, natural. And as you think of what you want, breathe that into the 3 things you're braiding. If it's paper, you can write on it if you want to, but speak your wishes to those 3 strands. And then as you're braiding it, concentrate on what it is you're asking for. A new job, Beltane's a great fertility time if you want to have a new baby, if you want to start something new, if you want to bring fertility of whatever flavor into your life, this is a great time to ask for it. So ask for these things as you braid. It doesn't have to be long, very short. So braid your little 3 things together and then go to your fairy tree, whatever outside space you have chosen to be your fairy bush. Say your intention one more time and then tie that ribbon onto the tree. And then leave an offering of milk or honey. And you could say something very simple. I love rhyming things. So you might say something like, with this ribbon, I give my wish to leaf, to wind, with blossom's kiss. May the spirits of the land receive, and in their time, I will believe. Or something. Say whatever. Say something rhymey that fits with what you like. Doesn't matter. Or just say thank you. And then turn around and walk away and leave it. And there's your little offering to the Fae and your little Beltane tree wish.
And your little dab of honey is an offering. I like that.
You mentioned one time using acorn caps as
Yep.
fairy offering plates, and I love that. This is
Isn't that
perfect.
cute?
It is so cute. You can put a tiny little bit of milk in with those little acorn caps or little tiny flowers as offerings, whatever you'd like. But yeah, say your wish into that little braid, tie it to the tree, and then leave your offering and go.
That kind of sounds like my little grandson putting his little flowers in the
Exactly.
little bush.
That's what I was thinking of while we were doing that. I was thinking that he was making little offerings to the land, and that made me think of that old Beltane tradition of tying things to the little Beltane tree. So I thought about that. So you could say that this is your grandbaby's fairy spell.
It is. It is. I love that.
Isn't that great? There's all sorts of things that you can do. People traditionally would light two fires and walk through them. Everyone would put out all their fires in their homes and they would light two fires up on a hill by the town. And people would drive their cattle between the two fires in order to bless them, to give them fertility. They themselves would walk through the fires. You could do that at your house with two candles, or if you're lucky enough to have a fire outside, you could set a candle a few feet away from that fire to be your second fire, or use two red crystals or two drawings of fire, two phones with videos of fires burning on them, whatever you've got. And then state your intention that these are your bell fires. And you're going to walk through these bell fires and receive the blessing of the god of light and life and fertility for the coming year. You could pass your items between them, like your tools, your jewelry, your pets, bless your grimoire, bless your baby, whatever. Just be safe. Remember your fire safety.
That sounds perfect, especially for folks that don't have a group and don't have a large community to lean on. That's the perfect way for them to celebrate solitary. I love that.
I do too. It's pretty cool. And there's lots of fire things that you can do. Just be careful with the fire. Don't burn your house down.
Be careful. Please be careful. I'll never forget the time we were at a Beltane and someone jumped the Beltane fire and caught on fire. Like, we don't need that.
We don't. Thankfully, in our group, there were people right there that took care of that because
Stop,
we
drop, and roll,
stop,
folks.
stop, and roll. Very often we would jump the fire. So
Yes.
sometimes we had two fires that you could walk through.
But in our defense, when there was fire jumping, we always had a fire spotter.
Yeah.
So if you did have frilly clothes on that happened to catch fire, there was somebody there beating you to the ground.
I think it only happened the once, as far as I
I know,
remember.
but it was scary.
It was scary. So yeah, fire safety for the fire festival. Absolutely.
I don't like seeing people catch on fire.
Some other things that you can do for Beltane, beauty spells and glamour spells. And if you go out at dawn or early morning before the dew burns off, the morning dew of Beltane is said to have special powers. You can take a washcloth or a piece of cloth outside, wipe the grass, or maybe wipe your window if it's got dew on it. I don't know. And you can put that on your face. You can put that in a little vial and add it to beauty and love spells. You can add a little bit of it to your bath. But the first dew of the morning of May 1st is said to have magical properties.
I don't know that, and I would never know that because I am never awake on Beltane morning when the dew is out. So that magic is something I'm not familiar with.
The dew will have burned off by the time Chelle is out of bed, and
Correct.
that is okay. You don't need any beauty glamour, my beloved
Aw,
friend. You're all good.
thanks.
Yeah. So, all of our May kings and queens, we recommend that you braid a crown for yourself. Maybe set up a throne. Set up a throne with your squishy blankets or with your favorite pillow, or, make it look royal, regal, whatever that means to you. Set up a spot that's specifically for you in your home. Make your altar into a throne room and celebrate the deity, the royalty that's within you.
Hail to the May Kings and the May Queens.
Thank you so much for listening to this Beltane episode of Back on the Broomstick. We love all of our kings and queens of the May out there, and thank you all so much for being with us, for hanging out, for celebrating these seasons. We really appreciate you guys.
And we just want y'all to just get outside, breathe some fresh air. It's been a few months, and we finally can go out and enjoy that is nature. It's time to go out in the woods. It's time to go to the water. Get outside, folks.
Are we telling people to touch grass?
Go touch grass.
Go touch grass.
Play in the mud. Go play in the mud like my grandson.
Play in the mud. Find that wildness within, without, and within each other, I guess. Now I'm starting to sound like a sermon. Anyway, thank you all again so much for joining us. We hope you get a chance to enjoy this Beltane, and we will see you all soon for the next episode. Be wise, be royal, be wicked.
And keep it witchy, my kings and queens.